my shameless sales plug is there's really only two alternatives for these customers. One is with our competitor Microsoft and moving to what is GCC High. And the second alternative is with your today, right? It's Google Workspace and using those two components. And then when you price the differences, I think we're very compelling when you're looking at one versus the other.
Welcome to the CMMC Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Derrich Phillips, a lead CMMC certified assessor. And I'm thrilled today because we have Jeff Brown joining us. He is Google U.S. Public Sector Workspace Lead. Tongue twister. So it's a very important role. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing great, Derek. Thank you. A little more, lead the Google Workspace Public Sector team for all things U.S., which includes state, local, but obviously the federal side. So the national security, the DoD, the civilian. So appreciate it for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining us. So I'm looking forward to diving into learning more about what that entails, especially on the defense side. But are you joining us today from Google headquarters?
I am, not headquarters, but beautiful Boulder, Colorado. So the Google
Boulder,
It's unbiased being in Colorado, but it is a spectacular view. Get to see the Front Range, which is right here, Flatiron. So it's a pretty spot.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of mountains, so I'm pretty biased too. The reason actually that I see it looks like Google has nice artwork in the offices there. Very nice portrait.
They got some pretty creative things. They've got a whole Ferris wheel made out of different types of, I'll call them Legos, a bunch of different artwork that is interesting. Wow. But the one behind me, I can look, but we got some the offices are known at Google for some of the interesting things they do. And Boulder definitely has some, just not, and I think beats the book.
Nice. So how long have you been with Google?
Just hit 13 years. Lucky number 13.
Yeah. Congrats.
Thank you. Always in the public sector. I don't know. I've been doing this now for 20 plus years, but started as an individual contributor covering about 12 states and then, just kind of grew from there.
Okay, awesome. So have you always been in cybersecurity space, or how did cybersecurity careers start?
Yeah, jokingly, my major in college was biology. So I always tell people, we focused on genetics and viruses. So thank you for laughing. The IT side, it's viruses, it's malware. Prior to Google, I was at Symantec. So did some work there, primarily state, local, federal, for all the security solutions that they offered at the time. So it's definitely a challenging and changing world. There's always the new threats. Things have changed over time. Obviously now it's AI and some of the unfortunate things that are happening, both good, but some of the things that these out-of-state characters are doing using technology can be frustrating to our customers. So that's why companies like Google and others are here.
I'd like to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor, CMMC Proof Compliance Acceleration System.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by the complex world of CMMC compliance? You're not alone. Small to mid-sized defense contractors are often swamped by the massive list of requirements, unsure of where to begin, lacking resources, and fearing assessment failure. But there's a solution. CMMC Proof, your compliance acceleration system. Unlike typical GRC tools, CMMC Proof breaks down the process into 5 easy-to-follow phases, guiding you through each step of your compliance journey. With everything you need in one place, from CMMC Level 1 and 2 requirements to evidence tracking and more, you'll never feel lost again. Get CMMC compliant faster and easier than ever before. Our system ensures nothing is missed, saving you time and effort. Built by CMMC certified assessors with decades of experience, CMMC Proof delivers real-world expertise and guidance you can trust. By the time your assessment comes, you won't just be ready, you'll be confident. Visit CMMCproof.com to start your 7-day free trial and accelerate your CMMC compliance today.
So in regards to CMMC, that's a big buzzword going around the defense sector right now, defense industrial base, and they're looking for help. How can, whether it's external service providers or cloud service providers, help the defense contractor satisfy the CMMC requirements for DoD. Let's talk about what the Google solutions that can help those defense contractors satisfy requirements for CMMC.
Yeah, it has been the daily topic now for, it seems like a while. I know with the legislation that was just passed, what was that, a couple months ago?
October.
Definitely lit a fire, so to speak, on some of these organizations. I was listening. Look, if you're high level, I would look at it as any type of company that does goods and services and hardware, et cetera, that provides that content, those services for and to the federal government. And essentially, they're going to have to meet this authorization because you're providing information, you're trading data. And so for us, there's multiple things that we do to help and assist these defense industrial base sector companies. For my role, I think this conversation, I would focus on what is called Google Workspace. So It's changed names over time. So if anybody remembers Google Apps for Governments or G Suite years ago now, it's called Google Workspace. And to simplify this, we really just have an offer. So we will give the equivalent of our competitors, say E5, we call it Google Workspace Enterprise Plus. So think of that as all things like the collaboration tools, email, calendar, Google Sites, video conferencing, mobile device management. So that whole framework, that platform is the Workspace Enterprise Plus component.
Okay.
And where we really at, I guess, the compelling event is something called Google Workspace Assured Controls. For an end user, I would say it's not the features. All those features are in that previous offering. What Assured Controls Plus does is really a couple things, but that is where you're going to hit like aisle 4. That's where you're going to have your data is all in the US, but what is really important is that background check support that needs to be in the United States.
Right.
What that Assured Controls does is from a support side, offers the Google employees that are based in the US to be able to, if they need to, triage open tickets. And then there's other layers such as the access management, the transparency, the reports, who touched it, when, what type of thing, as well as a differentiator for us in general, which is the client-side encryption. So that piece is all bundled together, so to speak. And we would offer both of those SKUs, if you will, to help these organizations if and when they meet these CMMC Level 2 authorizations.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And I know when I'm talking to clients, prospective clients, I have to explain to them why, say, the Google commercial alone would not satisfy as the CMMC Level 2. Other cloud service providers, because that component you mentioned about the US-based data centers and then also that support function who are providing the support in data centers. Yeah, glad you provided that clarification.
Yeah, if I could do, I'll say a shameless sales plug here. If I'm one of those dips, the compelling event that I have is you're going to start getting audited, if not already, but definitely going into next year. As we all know, that timeline is essentially as of a month ago or so, but really starts to kick in from these third-party authorization organizations, these 3 PAOs, going into these divs and doing these audits really into fiscal year 25 and beyond. In my compelling event, my shameless sales plug is there's really only 2 alternatives for these customers. One is with our competitor Microsoft and moving to what is GCC High.
I didn't want to say their name. I said those other CSPs. I didn't know how sensitive you've been.
Our friends in Red Carpet, as they say. Yeah. And that's either probably currently using them today, so they're going to have to, look at an upgrade. And they're going to have to look at those incurred costs. And the second alternative is with your year to day, right? It's Google Workspace and using those 2 components. And then when you price the differences, I think we're very compelling when you're looking at one versus the other.
Okay. So for, let's say we have a defense contractor watching the podcast and they want to know, what is that process as far as contacting Google? Let's say they're a current Google Workspace customer and they want to find out more about the pricing and the pathway to upgrading or adding that additional service to CMMC Level 2. What would that consist of?
Yeah, there's 2 ways that I'd answer that. So what we've done and what we're working on, here's your first answer, is right at the end of January. So it's, hey, I want to get interested now. I'll touch on that. Because there's a lot of, I won't call it complexity, because there's a lot to really be able to offer these defense industrial-based customers the right solution. And so I'll give you a couple examples. You need to have what I'll call the recipe or the cookbook. You have to know through our partners exactly how to deploy Google Workspace to meet all of the CMMC requirements that they go through, right? List.
Yeah, that mapping or crosswalk.
Exactly. So it's not super complicated, but again, we have just finishing, and we're actually having a third party, a 3 PAO, finish that for us. So that's a really important piece. We've had it existing today, but not, I'll say, with a big bow on top and, obviously authorized to go publicly. So that's going to be about the second week of January. And then right at the end, to answer your question, is we will have a public sector landing page for all of these divs. So it's going to have the FAQs. It's going to have how to contact us, right? We really want to make sure, is it manufacturing? Do they do drones? What type of div are you? So we know how to directly support you. And so with that will come the direct Google team. It's definitely going to be some of our inside staff. It's going to be absolutely our premium certified partners, Google Workspace partners that are going to help, because they're going to have questions about, well, how do I migrate? How do I do
lots of questions.
Yes. So that is the number one answer, is stay tuned. We'll be doing a lot of posting and some marketing on that. And then immediately, hey, if you're just trying to contact immediately, you just simply go to workspace.google.com and you can just say, hey, contact sales. And then that gets routed. And you just say, hey, I'd like to speak with the U.S. public sector team. And they'll get routed to our internal team.
Great. Yeah. Looking forward to landing page. I like how you all are kind of segmenting, because the div is so broad, so many various business use cases, and it's just very diverse. So there's no one size fits all. And there's going to be a lot of questions. Okay, what about my manufacturing? Hey, I do drones, or all these different use cases, segmenting that and making it not so overwhelming for defense contractors.
Yeah. How do we keep it simple?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the key word. And it is. And I'm going to date myself here a little bit, but I look at it as kind of like a Y2K for these organizations.
I recall it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's scary. I don't think it's just things happen, legislation changes. Obviously, it's a good thing. If you're serving our government, supporting their mission, then you yourself as an organization should have all the right checks, controls, and policies in place to protect that data and the things that you're trading back and forth with those government agencies.
Absolutely. And as a military veteran, I understand the significance of the role that the defense contractors play in our military, and just understanding that it is essentially national security at stake. It's essentially lives on the line. So what they're doing is really important. I have to protect that sensitive information from my adversaries. Now, you mentioned the cookbooks and FAQs. In addition to that, what are some other potential resources or services you're all offering defense contractors to help accelerate their CMMC compliance readiness?
Yeah, so I would say we'll have a series of webinars as well, really just educate. There is a lot more to the whole process, right? This, I would say, siloed into your email and your collaboration, right? Your calendar, your email, what are you using for chat? What are you using for video conferencing? And that is a whole framework. So to answer that question is a series of webinars to help these DIBs understand what our offering is. And in addition, as we go out through next year, early next year, is also what else can companies like Google offer these DIBs to help make it less confusing. And so things like Mandiant on the security side to prepare yourself, could, should, would, right? Or some of the things on Google Cloud Platform to make sure, do you currently have any on-premise infrastructure that you now need to move into a FedRAMP IL5 type of environment to pass this? So long answer for you, other than to say, we totally understand. We want to try and make it as simple as possible. So short series of trainings and webinars that essentially are going to start right at the end of January for us.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I know that Google has a long track record of making their products and resources very approachable and easy to use. So I'm confident y'all.
We do, yeah. Side note to tell you, it's not like we're not doing this today. So we have DIBs in place today. Some of them have passed their CMMC Level 2. We'll get some of those publicly referenceable. But even like this week, Monday, Tuesday of next week, we have a series of these webinars happening. So I don't want to make it sound like hurry up and wait till January. So specifically,
that's a good point.
We're going to be doing very careful, methodic type of sessions to help educate these organizations.
Okay. No, that's great. And it really, my ears perked up when you said webinars. That's something that kind of makes it just more approachable and helps the community to dip and say, okay, let's see what y'all have to offer, and being able to engage. That's a big part of it. So that's something that I would encourage any CSP is find ways to engage with the DIP, and especially the CMMC ecosystem, where those assessors and those implementers finding ways to engage with them, share information, because they're going to be learning facing services to their clients who are saying, okay, how do I satisfy CMMC Level 2? What do I do?
Yeah.
So what would be your advice for a defense contractor, subcontractor who plans on staying in the defense industrial base and not being scared away by CMMC? Let's say they're kind of just starting their CMMC compliance journey, has not selected a cloud service provider yet. What would be your advice for them?
Good question. So I think in general, not joking, Google it. Hello. Or their shameless sales plug, which is free to everybody out there, consumers, is gemini.google.com, and simply request and ask information. So how do I educate myself on the CMMC for a defense industrial base sector? Really understanding a couple of things is what will and are the requirements for these organizations. So again, that type of organization, I want to know what and how am I going to get audited? What do I need to prepare for? So these organizations go through all kinds of audits, particularly if they're private but public companies. They get audited once or twice a year in general areas, and they prepare themselves year over year. This to me is no different. What do I need to prepare for? The second piece is then once you look at what you need to prepare for and what are those requirements, let me take a look at my infrastructure, not just email and collaboration, but what systems and tools and things do I have that I'm communicating and directly working with these government agencies. And that's where I would say different databases without naming them, right? Different asset management tools that you use, and just making sure, because those authorizations will also apply to, again, not just email and collaboration. So now you understand what is about to happen to you. You now understand what's going on in your own infrastructure, what you need to prepare for. And then that's the best way to then say, okay, what alternatives are out there? What organization, again, such as Google, can assist me as I proceed throughout the next year plus to make sure I can get that green check mark, and then I can continue doing business and my contracts with the federal agencies.
Right. In your role, I imagine you talk to a lot of contractors, defense contractors. What are some ways where you kind of can help that you found successful in helping those organizations organization to understand the return on investment, understanding that cybersecurity is an investment. CMMC certified is going to be an investment and potentially great return on their investment. I'm just curious because as a consultant, that's something that I have to find creative ways every day to try to help contractors understand that, yeah, it's going to cost money, but it's not just not throwing it away. It is an investment. If you plan on staying in the deal, it's not optional. So it's curious what's been some of your interactions.
It is, I guess, unfortunate to say it is what it is under the circumstances, right? The federal government, again, is saying we need to be compliant. You need to meet these things. A lot of these federal contracts are very, very important to these DIBs. In many cases, it's 70+% of their annual revenue. Second unfortunate thing is that many times it's a small percentage for them year over year of what they are making, so to speak. So any impact in cost to a small, medium, and large size defense type of DIB is impactful. So again, the unfortunate thing is what it is. You're going to have to either upgrade and pay some substantial more cost or look at an alternative such as us. So to answer your question, we internally call it, Google and our partners call it a mutual evaluation plan. So, or a mutual evaluation plan. So what we'll do is and with our partners is we will sit down with the organization and we'll again say, we'll just figure out, right, who you are, what types of audits you're going to go through. And then we simply map it. I wouldn't look at it as a statement of work. I'd look at it basically a line by line. I'm being very quick here. I would say sometimes I'll just say 4 hours. What is the 4 hours? It's a deep dive into a series of interview questions to really help identify just within email and collaboration. How do you authenticate? What do you use, right? How do you do single sign-on? What kind of systems in place? What's your mail size per individual? How do you guys use different technologies and tools? Obviously communicate with the government, and you map all that out to understand what the infrastructure looks like in this mutual evaluation plan. To then the second part of your question is, let's currently look at what you do today and what do you pay a series of these companies to do today to support that? And could there be an alternative or an opportunity to help replace some of those with like or potentially better or more efficient solutions to then move you into what would be a CMMC type of environment to protect that data, thereby getting your assessment. So really we do it, like I said, through a series of interview questions, scoping, create a mutual evaluation plan. So last point is customer goes, yes, this is my environment. Yes, these are all my things. Google, professional services, partners, I'll go, this is essentially 95% of what we believe is correct. Why 95 and not 100? Because you're always going to find 5 to 7% of just things you just missed. And that's okay.
Yeah, continuous improvement.
There you go. Oh, I didn't know we had this legal system that 5 people use that is an on-prem application. Okay, so now how do we take a look at that and kind of go through the same series of questions?
No, that's phenomenal. And I like just the phrase, the mutual evaluation, just kind of reframing it. This isn't an assessment. This isn't audit or anything like that.
Right.
This is a mutual evaluation. And this is going to be the outcome of a deliverable is going to benefit you, whether you continue Google or add more services or not. You're going to benefit from that. And I know a lot of organizations really struggle with that, trying to identify, get a grasp of their assets and all of the cloud services there. You be a real challenge, see the value in having the expertise of Google to guide them through that.
Yeah, I'll give you a simple example. This happened even just yesterday where over the series, I think of the last 30 plus days, we've been working with this customer and talking with the right IT folks. And they said they have something like 38 SharePoint sites. And it was 38 over and over again. And then come to find out it's actually 80. And it was like, hold on, because we're doing some crawling and some, I won't call it investigations, but looking at that solution and identifying, I'll say they have a lot of ghost or stagnant type of ones. Well, they still need to be cleaned up, migrated. But that's an example where the right individuals are telling us a number for a month. And then yesterday it's under discovery double. So that goes to that 5% I was mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely software as a service, all the various cloud services are great, but it's easy to lose track of them. Especially as a larger organization.
Shadow IT, they say the creeps in there. The larger their organizations, a little bit more such, just individuals doing the right thing, just spinning up different applications to get their job done, but yet it's on that organization's domain. And so now essentially you're responsible for it. You can make sure you're protecting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that can be a security vulnerability, a way in for that threat actor. Can't protect what you don't know you have.
That's right.
Now, what is the final deliverable when you're doing those mutual evaluations? What do your partners get at the end of that exercise?
Yeah. So what will end up happening, I said, it's not an SOW, but now I'll do a 180 and flip on you. That essentially turns into what I'll call a glorified statement of work to then explain exactly what systems, exactly what you're migrating, how you're migrating that over. You're in platform A today. We're going to move you into platform B tomorrow. And so how that migration and deployment works, and then how the training works, because individuals, right, might be using a different example, email and collaboration. And then as part of that, I guess I think I've used this now twice, shameless sales plug, organizations like Google will do something called deployment vouchers. And what deployment vouchers are, look, you already have a cost for the Enterprise Plus and Ensure controls, right? For potentially looking at a platform switch, but you probably don't have a bunch of extra funding or money to actually pay for a migration and deployment to switch those individuals. So what Google does, other vendors do this as well, is we will invest, if you will, or we're going to put our own funding into it to help support the partner to essentially pay for as much of that deployment and migration and training as possible. You worry about the licensing costs. We're going to take care of you as much as we can on that deployment and migration. Do this over a period of time.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a win-win, whether they decide to do that or not. They get a lot of value undertaking that exercise.
Yeah.
You read my mind. I was going to ask about, I know other CSPs may call it like credits or something like that, but
exactly. Yeah. I've heard customers call them Google Bucks. I'm like, just to be clear for everybody, that funding, so to speak, that comes directly from Google does not go to the customer. So we're not like, here's money. It actually goes directly to the partner. So here's my SOW, right? We're going to do all these things we just talked about in the mutual evaluation plan. We're going to train, but that helps alleviate, again, as much as possible of that first year cost, do that migration and deployment. And then here comes your licensing, so to speak, for, again, the Enterprise Plus and the Assure Controls Plus.
Okay. Love it. Now, in regards to talking about cloud services, there's always going to be that shared responsibility model. And a lot of times organizations may not fully understand that. What are some ways you help organizations understand the shared responsibility model? If they purchase all of Google services that will, let's say, get them 90% there, that 10%, how do you help them understand that they have that shared responsibility?
Yeah, I think I'll answer that. I'll give you a sideways example and then come back. So people know what a business, a BAA is. So, HIPAA, I think every federal and state local organization is going to make sure that when they're working with a software company, or rather, they're going to have a BAA in place. So as part of a customer responsibility, we're going to list a couple of things that you need to do in order to have that BAA in place. For example, use encryption. So to speak, you're sending a really important Google sheet or Excel sheet for that matter. You have to have the right components on it, right? You can't just send it out publicly with everybody's salary or medical ID numbers, right? And so that would make sense for a customer obligation or requirement. I will say it's the same thing on CMMC, which going back is that deployment guide. Here's the deployment guide that you need to match and provision into the Workspace Administration Console. That responsibility can be done by the customer, but it's really done by our Google partners. So then we're going to assess it to make sure that, hey, this meets that obligation. And then I think a second part of your, or third part of your question could be, some customers would want a managed service. I just want you to run it for me, so to speak. And then we'll have Google Premier partners that can offer that service. So they've got US based, they'll have individuals that'll actually do, as people come and go from the organization, the provisioning, they'll make sure that all of the checkboxes, so to speak, on that CMMC deployment guide are efficient. And so Google, we do not offer that managed services ourselves. We heavily rely on our, again, certified Google partners to do that type of requirement.
All right. Kind of all bases covered. Whatever your partners need, customers need, have it covered. Now, I know you mentioned you'll have several use cases where organizations have gone through, it's probably under the joint surveillance assessments, voluntary assessment program, pretty much being assessed by CPOs and DOD against the CMMC Level 2 requirements. I know you can't really mention any names at this point, but I guess can you talk about any of the, type of industries or maybe any use cases that came to mind, minus the name?
So I think I'll be selfish here, where I personally worked with them, assisted them, so to speak, with myself or the team. Again, without giving names, but going back to an earlier comment, hey, stay tuned. And in January, as part of that CMMC Google Public Sector landing page, we're going to definitely have a few organizations that have raised their hand and willing to put in essentially what I'm about to say, which is I am 100% on Workspace. I went through a CMMC Level 2 audit and I passed. One of the cases, fairly small to medium, or a couple of that I've worked with, will probably put in something that you'll see that what they expected to take 10 days plus to literally hours for that section of that CMMC audit through that 3PAO. And then we have what I'll call, large FSI, which a lot of acronyms here, Federal Systems Integrator, also a DIB at the same time, around the 12,000 employee plus. Also recently this year, a few months ago, went through the same process. So that gives you, Derrich, an idea of fairly large, and then some medium, and then some large that all went through this process, actually went through the audit, passed that CMMC Level 2, and away they'll go with their government contracts. And here we go.
Okay. Yeah, I love those success stories. Absolutely. Right. Proof of concept. Fantastic. Jeff, giving us a lot of great information, or educated on the offerings that Google has. Now I can speak more intelligently to my clients, prospective clients, the options available to them. So as we get ready to wrap up this interview, how would people get in contact with yourself or your team if they're looking to learn
Yeah. First, I'd like to go back with you're right. A key word you said was option. And that's all we're asking from our side is consider particularly the Google Workspace as an option to help you if you're a DIB organization. And then how to get help is going back, hey, listen to that. End of January, you're going to see us. You're basically just going to Google public sector CMMC. Bang, that's going to land you right to that website. At that point, it will be a quick form, which is okay. Little 1990s here, but that form, going back to an earlier question, is really how we want to make sure we route you to the right individual. Because whether you're a software technology or a service technology, again, the example I think I said is you provide drones, you do detergent for the uniform type of government agencies. That way we can route you, so to speak, to the right Google individuals as well as the partners. So that'll all be available. And then the second way, as mentioned, is just a quick fix for today is if you just simply, again, Google Public Sector Workspace, you'll get to our landing homepage, contact sales, same thing. And then that gets routed to our inside team. And then we'll definitely be able to assist between now and January.
Fantastic. So just a quick follow-up question on that. So within the public sector team, there's going to be kind of like specialized SMEs based on the industry for the
Great question. Great question. So we have individuals, we're technically specialists. So we have workspace specialists. This is all we do. We would love to talk to you about Google Platform, Looker, Apogee, Mandiant, right? Our team, to answer your question, this is our world. And then we have individuals that just support DoD, Army, Navy. We have individuals that support, the civilian federal agencies. And then amongst that team, to answer your question again, is yes, they're very focused on the CMMC for those DIBs. And then there's another team, which is that inbound team that also that does all things workspace as well. So highly focused workspace specialists, very much been working on this like some other big companies for probably at least 6 months straight. This has been kind of coming. And then again, this October pass, that's, I guess they say all hands on deck, which is why you'll see a lot of that material land at the end of January.
Okay. Yeah, that's huge for contractors because now they're not starting from scratch for someone who has really no idea about the defense industry, no idea about potentially their use case. That alone would help streamline, accelerate their CMMC compliance journey. Glad we fleshed that out.
We hope so. That's why we're just really preparing so we can try and answer all of those questions up front and then get you the help you need. We're going to have incentivized packages for whether you're small, medium, or large to make it, as they say, a no-brainer and very easy for you to consider your options. We want to be extremely compelling. So yeah, we're excited.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate your time today. I'm excited to see everything that Google launches in terms of putting out more information and webinars. It's really exciting.
Hey, back at you again. Thank you for having me. You said it earlier. Definitely really appreciate your service. It means a lot. This is the world we live in. So really, again, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
If you receive value from this episode, I invite you to subscribe and like so that you're the first to know when we release new episodes. Also, check out CMMCproof.com to learn more about the arsenal of resources that we provide to equip you to conquer CMMC. We'll see you next time.